Drink, drink, receive, receive, cleanse, cleanse, be purified. Breathe it in and breathe it out. Thank you, sweet sage. The love and light broom. The love and light broom has a little song to sing with you this morning. The love and light broom, the love and light broom, the love and light broom, the love and light broom. We're gonna sweep, sweep, sweep. 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 The love and light broom. 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 We're gonna sweep, sweep, sweep. 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 The love and light broom. 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 Thank you. Blessings and welcome. Thank you for being here this morning. 4D Trinity. I am Tuesday May Thomas, and what a beautiful and exceptional divine day it is. Here in the desert where I live, we've had days of rain, and now the skies are blue. The birds are out singing. Good morning, Will. The birds are out singing, and it is just gorgeous. The stars last night were phenomenal. They felt so close. You could touch them. So thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for blessing me with your presence. I'm so very grateful to be with you here this morning, now and always. And it is a delight to share that little song with you of the love and light broom. You know, for years, welcome Christine, blessings. Thank you for being here. For years, I used only a different kind of a broom. And it was specific to cleansing and clearing tar body energy, the darker, the shadow energy. And do you know that I honor that broom, and it's been used heavily over years of work that I've done. Yet, it has very humbly found its place in a closet where it has guided myself to place it, and it now sits there and just does its thing. It's like it's in a little cocoon. And I remember after years of using that broom, which I will call, I don't really have a name for it, but I guess it's like a tar body broom. And it's rooted in clearing and cleansing fears, right? Shadow, dark side stuff, heavy stuff. And I remember being at a store, and seeing 2 brooms. And I thought, oh, I'm supposed to get another broom. Like I had this feeling in me that I was supposed to get another broom. And there was one broom that looked the same as the tar body broom, but it was a bigger version of it. And then there was this broom sitting right next to it. And I realized in that moment that I could make a very conscious choice, that I could choose to continue focusing my energy in the way of the tars, of the dark, of the shadow, because I'm very good at it, you see. And there was even a point where I realized where I could take the title, if I so agreed to it, of tar body tracker, because I feel it comes for all of us, though, that have worked deeply in healing ourselves, our shadow, our dark side, our tars, the manipulative, seductive, hidden parts of ourselves that are rooted in fear and hate and self-destruction and self-sabotage. I feel that I had exercised so much of that from myself, my life, to the degree that there was a great clarity in learning and understanding where I could sniff it out miles away. I could see it in people because I knew how it felt and looked in myself. And I got really, really good at it. And I think it's because of the years I've had with teachers where I've dealt with being psychically manipulated, which is a whole other, oh, look who's here. The Love and Light Broom has invited Moses. You can't see him now. He's down here. AKA, his Instagram name is Swami Origami. So what a lovely little treat here. But the point is that I made a choice when I was at that store and I saw these 2 brooms, and there was either a bigger tar body broom or this, what I call the Love and Light broom. And it was a very conscious choice to say, all right, I know how to do the tar body thing. I know how to exorcise pretty much, demons from people, places, and things, but I don't want to do that work. I don't want to reside in that space all the time. I used to sleep with my broom, and it was very powerful, very shamanic. I used to sleep with my drum too for a long time. And then I realized, like, fuck this. That's not necessarily the path I want to go down. Even though I'm good at it, I can do it, I understand it, there's an integrity and a wisdom within me and aligned with it. Let this be a tool, a gift that comes as it is guided and required, but not a place that I wish to live 24 hours a day. So the broom went to the closet, the drum found a sacred space on the wall, and the Love and Light broom came home with me. And all the Love and Light broom is about is spreading love and light, is seeing only love and light. And yes, it is a cleansing agent, but it's not working because of fear. It's not working because of tars. Do you know what I mean? It's not, when I use it, I'm not coming from a place of, oh my God, there's so much heavy energy in here. I got to cleanse it. I got to clear it, or else, right? It's not coming from that kind of a paradigm. It's coming from a place of love and light broom. It's just pure love. So if you just tuned in, thank you so much for being here. Thank you always for dropping me a little line so I know that you're here. And at the very beginning of our live stream this morning, I burned us up a bunch of sage and I gave us a little sweeping, a little love and light dusting with the Love and Light broom. I'm going to place my glasses on here a moment. Love and Light broom. Yes, yes. Okay, blessings. So here we are. Spontaneous realities and collective agreements is our topic this morning. Now, I do have the window open in the kitchen, and now I hear there's someone sawing something way out in the distance. If it becomes cumbersome, if it takes away from you being able to hear me properly, let me know, okay, in the comment box. Otherwise, I'm going to keep the window open, because from time to time the wind blows and the chimes at the window just make such a delightful sound, and it's just beautiful. So, last week our topic was Kundalini, nectar of the gods. And really, Kundalini is the philosopher's stone. It is that which bridges us, brings us into a new reality, a new sense of who we are, and a new adaptation of that version of ourselves in a new world. When we change, everything around us changes. Our environment is alive and reacts to our perception of it. The more light sight we activate through our spiritual practices, through stimulating the third eye, vision, the Christ sight, thine eye be single sight, seeing love and only love outside of the dual lenses of perception, the more the world begins to show us that love and only love. Now, there are collective agreements, there are individual agreements. And the individual agreement, with the story I was telling you about with the brooms earlier, my individual agreement was that I'm a good tar body tracker. And I'm so good at this, I want to do this all the time. And I'm a badass, and this is a part of my whole thing. Yet, as I started gathering more love and more light into my bodies, into my energy vehicle, I realized that that paradigm actually does not reside in the same place as the love and light broom. Where there's love and only love, there is no need for a tar body broom, you see. And so I made a choice. I had an individual agreement with the tars, with the shadow, that we're like this, that I see you, and I know how to work with you, and I know how to work with you with people. And so we're going to rock this out. And believe me, I have rocked it out. Some of you watching know, we get to know this fear-based, limiting, negative part of ourselves, but ultimately so that we can go beyond it and find our own love and light brew. The love and light brew. So I had a spontaneous reality shift when I realized I no longer had to work with the tar body broom. And it brought me into a greater paradigm of that Kundalini awareness, of being at one with the nectar of the gods. And it is the philosopher's stone, that Kundalini, that DMT, that Vibhuti, the divine wellspring of nectar that is activated within this energy vehicle and either poured on like a fast tap or given to us in little sips through a little drip from the brain and into our system. It is the inner philosopher's stone. It is the metaphysician's nectar that allows us to see beyond the illusion, beyond the veils of the collective agreements that the world holds. And it allows us to be so at one with what is without needing to change it, without having any projections of judgment of what is right or wrong, that it allows for spontaneous realities to occur, be it lead into gold, be it dark into light, be it cancer into miraculous, spontaneous healing. These spontaneous realities do require our input, do require our ability to go outside of linear thinking, to move beyond what we have been taught, what we have learned. And this is the trick. This is very tricky because it is a collective agreement that time is real, that time exists. It is a collective agreement that we have to work hard to make a living, that we have to go to college in order to get a good job. We have collective agreements. If you eat too much of this, you're going to get sick. If you eat enough of that, you will become healthy. So, as we move forward, backward, into a greater sense of the now, what we realize as we meditate and we go deeper and deeper into ourselves, ultimately, which is really bringing us home to God, to Source, to the feeling, realization of oneness, to unity consciousness as we relax into that space. What happens is we do begin to see, sense, and realize the world coming apart. We begin to realize the dimensions of how we exist in this world begin to become more fluid. The space between them becomes greater as we learn to create greater space between each breath within us, as we learn to create more space between the thoughts in our minds with our meditation practice. So, as if there's a stack of papers glued together. You know when you have a book and it's been raining and the book gets rained on and the pages get stuck together and then you begin to peel the pages apart. Well, that's how we've been in our collective consciousness. We've had stories upon stories upon stories given to us, taught to us in schools, by our families, fed to us by the media, by societies. And as we begin to soften, marinate those areas within us that are aligned with the oneness, with the now wisdom, those sheets of paper that have once been stuck together as one solid whole, undisputable, unbreakable. This is how it is. This is how the world works. So you have to do 1 + 1 to get 2. But as we begin to awaken the third eye, the papers begin to peel apart and there's space created between them. And we begin to see a new reality. We begin to see ourselves and the world around us change. Now, I know last week I spoke a lot about LSD. And I don't do LSD anymore for many, many years. And I don't do mushrooms. I've done mushrooms. And perhaps if the space is correct, the last time I had done a series of mushrooms was with 2 apprentices ago that I worked with. And we would go into the desert. It was a very spiritual, ceremonial ritual that we had, whereby we would go to the desert, we would camp, we would have the sacred mushrooms, we would call on our guides or angels, we would light a fire. It was very powerful. We would go on a walkabout, a journey, and it was very fruitful and very, very blessed, very light-filled. And I haven't done that in many, many years. Back in 2009, I had taken a journey on my own on mushrooms, and they took me in and took me out. And it was at the time when Nibiru, Planet X, was being discovered, and it was all the rage on the YouTube and the New Age kind of underground conversations. And I had this vision. The shrooms showed me the elliptical of this Planet X comes around, and I will just be guessing here. Let's say 21,000 years. Don't quote me on that. But it comes around and it comes close in an elliptical orbit around the Earth every 21,000 years. And I think that's why, well, there's probably so many reasons why we don't recognize it, or it's not a part of our system as such in science, because it only shows up every 21,000 years. And all of these books that we learn in our school and our teachings have only been around so long. So they only reflect a certain level of consciousness. It's like that saying, we only use 3% of our brains. Well, honey, that's only 3% of your brain that came up with that paradigm that came up with that offering. So get back to us when you're using more of your brain, and then let's see. Okay, so the mushroom showed me that they were starting to show me heaven on earth teachings, but I didn't realize it back at that time. They showed me because Nibiru was in our field. It was coming really close, and they showed me that Planet X was a second Earth, that it is actually ready, prepared, and waiting for us who are ready and willing and prepared to move into a higher level of consciousness, to move into what we now call, what I call 4D consciousness, heaven on earth realization. And that as that planet comes around every 21 years, there is this natural where we just transfer those who are ready, those who resonate. And it's not like you get a lottery ticket. It's just a frequency. It's a vibrational thing that if you are resonating in that realm, that you will naturally align with that planet. And that planet will then continue to orbit, go back around 21,000 years, come back around, pick up the next crew, come back around, and such and so on. So that's what the mushroom showed me. And it's interesting because I feel that that very, very much could have happened, yet there's nothing in our collective agreement to say that that is such. Yet, as those pieces of paper begin to move apart, as the dimensions begin to come apart, and what I mean by that is that more and more people, you know, if you watch mainstream TV all the time, mainstream news all the time, and you don't meditate as much, then the sphere of awareness or of information you will be able to tap will be just that. And I don't mean this in a negative way, but it will be limited to just that. Whereas as we do some research and we become informed of other people's ideas and notions and considerations, and not that we need to fill up too much on that. In fact, I don't like to fill up too much on that. Yet, to be aware of where the rest of the world is at and to consider other ideas and options and levels of seeing things, you know, it's very stimulating to have new perceptual lenses activated and to try them on and to consider what that might mean to you and how that can further enlighten your perspective, your view of how you see you and the world around us. So the dimensions are coming apart as more and more people are choosing love, as more and more people are healing themselves. More and more people are doing yoga, right? Whether you think it's all a farce and yoga's just becoming like a McDonald's factory that people can become a yoga teacher, you know, in a weekend training. Well, however you see that, it's on. There are these new levels, these different levels of awakenings happening that are shifting the collective agreements of how the world works and what it means. And I know before I had spoke on this that up until those eclipses last August, I had never received on my phone little notifications. It's CNN, Huffington Post, TMZ. There's like all these weird things that pop up now that I can either click on and go into or just clear and decline. Yet those things had never come up on my phone ever before. And I've had this same phone, the same carrier, the same thing for 4 years now. And I thought it was odd. And how it struck me, and I'm not sure if I spoke about it in that trinary video I made back then, but how it struck me is that, wow, the collective, there's such a great degree of us releasing our connections, our beliefs in those aspects, in those grids of fear, of war, of polarized thinking, whether we're aware of it or not. There's so many of us relinquishing our need for that to be the truth. We are awakening to a God realization, to a self-love realization, to a larger strata that is not so confined to the limitations of binary thinking. It's on. It's just happening. And because we're delinking from that grid that holds all of those collective agreements that keep a lot of the world bound by fear versus liberated through love, it's as if they have to remind you, oh, you got to be afraid. Even recently, myself and Will were cracking up because even on the phone, you see the title and it says, cyclone bomb, East Coast gets destroyed, hardest winter ever. And, if you live in the East Coast, or if you've ever lived there, like, this is just what happens every winter, but they sensationalize everything to get our attention, to get us reconnected and to feed and to be fed by the grid, by that collective consciousness where all of the collective agreements are held. Now, the grid, we remember, is not only rooted in, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying that let's become aware of one aspect of one paradigm of how this energy in the universe works. And as it resonates with you, learn how to apply your mind through applied metaphysics, through our consciousness, so that we can always work with those energies, choose love, and make our way through the labyrinth, back to the unity consciousness, back to the one, back to the God, back to the source, right within us. So there's enough of us releasing our beliefs, releasing our fear, honey. We are releasing the fear, right? We're not afraid to die. We're not as afraid to die as perhaps we were back in a certain time. We're not as afraid of disease. We're not as afraid of nuclear war. And you might be going, yes, I am. But what I'm trying to point out is that what I feel is that there's enough of us in our collective that are unplugging from that collective agreement. And those who have an interest in perpetuating the grid, in controlling the grid, and so controlling us, and I really, this is not an area that I want to go too long in, but that they are finding ways to keep reaching out to us to keep us plugged in. So again, collective agreements, we can either agree or disagree. Now, everything in these collective agreements about how the world works and about what we're supposed to be afraid of is based on the past, is based on beliefs from the past. Everything that's happening for you right now, everything that you see right now is based on the information, the experience you've gathered from your past. How would you know it otherwise? How would you know that the sky is the sky? How would you know that a door is a door if you didn't have a past recognition, definition to know it by? Now, isn't that a trip? With these dimensions parting, coming apart, we are consciously able to choose what we're going to plug into. Are you going to choose the world that perpetuates the lack, the fear, the injustice, the trauma, the drama, the duality consciousness, or are you moving towards that realm that is rooted and based in greater love and greater light, that heaven on earth? Did your energy jump over, if there is a second earth? In that vision that the mushroom showed me, did your energy jump over into that new earth, so to speak? Are you a part of creating that new earth now? When we allow for spontaneous realities, which we're going to get into here, this is all building a foundation. When we allow spontaneous realities to occur, we are going beyond linear thinking. Linear thinking is always about past, present, and future, which is very limited. The now, which the present is not the now, but the present is the gateway to the now. The present is the only time there is, which leads us outside of time to the now. But now is eternal and everlasting. It is not subject to one timeline of past, present, and future. So when we begin to loosen our moorings, loosen our bearings of how we think the world works, of how our healing is going to go down, good or bad, of how our finances are going to work out, good or bad, based on the past, we are deciding and agreeing with not only our individual reality, with our individual consciousness, right, and deciding mind, but we're connecting with the greater collective that agrees in that, which creates an even greater paradigm that strengthens that as a truth, as a belief, as a reality in your life. Going beyond linear thinking, the mind will always try to relate with something out there, something in the past. So our job, if we should receive it, if we should be inspired by these ideas, is to let go of thinking we know what's going to happen and how it's going to happen. And I know this is a trip, right? But this is our path of mastery. This is the metaphysics of how miracles, of how spontaneous realities come into being. It's when we don't know. If you think of all the masters, what do the masters say? I know nothing. The masters recognize and realize that knowing too much is actually creating limitation. The magician, the fool in the tarot card. They know that knowing too much does not create the correct conditions for them to continue trusting and bridge heaven on earth. Let's go ahead and answer this phone. I'm so excited. Hello. Hey, God. So good to hear from you. Yes, we are. I know there's a lot of different ideas I'm grabbing and I'm drawing from here. And I pray by the end of this that that there will be a cohesive rooting in the offerings today. A Course in Miracles, absolutely, it's right here. Yes, okay. We're going to talk about, some of the lessons and read a little bit. Okay. Yes, that's perfect because it has completely to do with our topics today. Collective agreements and spontaneous realities. God's like, the miracle is right there. Isn't that beautiful? God says, hello, everyone. Well, thank you, God. Blessings and namaste. Okay, thanks. How cool. So God wants us to read a little bit out of A Course in Miracles. And first, and I love that God wants us to to read these parts because it totally has to do with our leveling up, our coming into a greater understanding of this collective agreement and spontaneous realities. I'm reading from chapter 13, From Perception to Knowledge, paragraph 1. All healing is release from the past. All healing is release from the past. When you release the past through healing, you are no longer bound by those chains that had once bound you. You experience a sense of freedom, liberation, and sovereignty that was not there before. If anyone has ever been through a healing, you know, if you've really let go, you've really forgive, you've really come full circle in that healing, that gives birth to a spontaneous reality, a new reality of you, and a new reality of you being in the world, and such a new reality of the way that the world reacts and responds to you. That is why the Holy Spirit is the only healer. So in A Course in Miracles, the Holy Spirit is like the higher self. The Holy Spirit is like the raven in animal spirit totemology that bridges the dimensions, that bridges your earthly self with God. So when you have a question, you have a query, you have something you want to be relieved of, you give it to the Holy Spirit to give to God, according to A Course in Miracles. So all healing is release from the past. That is why the Holy Spirit is the only healer. He teaches that the past does not exist, a fact which belongs to the sphere of knowledge. The Holy Spirit teaches the past does not exist. So in effect, the Holy Spirit gives us the opportunity to say, you know what, I feel guided. This is really hurting me to harbor these feelings of pain, of hurt, of resentment, of guilt, of unforgiveness. I'm having a hard time forgiving this person, this situation. Holy Spirit, I'm going to give it to you, to give to God, to give to Source, so that you can do it for me, because I'm having a hard time doing it myself. And that's a part of the grace. That is a part of us remembering, whether we are aware of it or not, that that past actually does not exist. That which we are giving to Holy Spirit to be taken from us so that we can be replaced and instilled back in our full presence of the now moment is actually us saying, I'm done with this past. I allow this to be erased. I allow this to be released. The past does not exist. A fact which belongs to the sphere of knowledge and which therefore no one in the world can know. According to A Course in Miracles, the world is not real. The world is based on illusion. Illusion is based on perception, which is what we see through the dual lenses of the physical eyes. And as long as we're seeing through eyes of perception, aka the physical eyes, there is always the possibility for us to see fear, for us to see what is wrong, for us to judge ourselves, others, people, places, and situations. And as soon as we do that, we are feeding into the world, which is not true, feeding into the illusion and participating in that. And when we are in that collective agreement of right is right, wrong is wrong, this whole binary system, left is left, right is right, up is up, down is down, 1 + 1 = 2. Yes and no. It's very limited, yet it's a system that works. Many systems work, though. And the more that you expand your mind and your heart, you begin to realize there's more than one way to do things. It would indeed be impossible to be in the world with this knowledge. So this is speaking to once we know through that third eye vision, through that heart opening awareness, once we know that love is the truth, and that really what the truth is in that oneness realization is that love is, and only love is. That is knowledge, and that brings us out of the world, out of the illusion, out of the need to judge, to be preoccupied with being irritated at what we see out there, because we realize it's not real. And we realize furthermore, it's not real because it's based on the past. It's based on what we think we know about the past. Okay. So we're going to move on. So God also, if you're just joining us, God just called. And God is having us do a little review, a little look into A Course in Miracles. And this is beautiful. This week, I started the Course in Miracles for the 4th year, and there's a lesson every day that you can read, 365 lessons that, okay, the cat is sharpening. Swami Origami is sharpening his claws. Okay, he's done. No, he's not. There he goes. There's a lesson each day that helps to train your mind. It is a metaphysical mind training, A Course in Miracles, that serves us to be released from judgment, to be released ultimately from the world and what we think it is, so that we can attain an alignment and a oneness with God, which I think it would be fun to do a whole live stream on just God and that whole word and the meaning. But ultimately, that is the feeling realization of oneness. So lesson 7, the title is, I See Only the Past. This idea is particularly difficult to believe at first, yet it is the rationale for all of the preceding ones. So, old ideas about time are very difficult to change because everything you believe is rooted in time and depends on your not learning these new ideas about it. Yet that is precisely why you need new ideas about time. The first time idea is not really so strange as it may sound at first. So, this concept, I see only the past. Okay, lesson 8, the lesson that comes after this. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. This idea is, of course, the reason why you see only the past, because our minds are preoccupied with past thoughts. No one really sees anything. No one really sees anything. How about that? No one really sees anything. We see only our thoughts projected outward. So what if we don't see anything, but what we do see are only our thoughts projected outwards? How about that? The mind's preoccupation with the past is the cause of the misconception about time from which your seeing suffers. Your mind cannot grasp the present, which is the only time there is. It therefore cannot understand time and cannot, in fact, understand anything. This is said to be Jesus Christ, right? Channeled to a fashion. And if you look into Christ a little or a lot, you'll see that Christ was pretty sassy at times. So in saying that if we cannot understand time, meaning that time doesn't exist and that really the only time there is now, that we can't understand anything at all. And that is a primary basis. And that is why that is one of the first couple of lessons in the first week of A Course in Miracles when you start from lesson 1, which is how you're guided to start. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. No one really sees anything. We see only our thoughts projected outward. We see only our thoughts projected outward. So this goes in tandem with our environment is alive and reacts to our perception of it. So everything just is. Yet when we decide to see it, how we decide to see it, what we lay over it through our perceptions gives it energy, gives it vitalization, and allows it to show up for us in that way. We are in effect, and I know there's a few comments, I'll read them here shortly. We are in effect saying, I see the past from my past experience. I've been hurt before. I've been betrayed. I've been two-timed. Someone stole money from me before. Whatever the things are, because remember, they're always the ills of the past. Those aspects of the past that set us free, that are unlimiting, that are blessed. Why is it that I know for me, over my years of healing my life and my trauma and my drama, that for the most part, I was really good at remembering all of my pain, all of my shame, all the reasons why I should be a victim in the world. And the more that I released my collective agreement with myself, my individual agreement with the collective, that the world is a hard place to live in, that the world is out to get me, that the dark side can really mess me up, just all these collective agreements that I agreed to, I got more of that. So in effect, we're connecting with our individual grid through the grid system, through the collective, hooking into that collective, and then putting that collective thread of perception onto a person, place, or thing. And to the degree that that person, place, or thing is ready, willing, or for the highest good in our karmas, our lessons, for our growth, going to show up for us, it will. And this is very, very powerful, because as we learn to release those collective agreements about how the world works, well, the world starts to show up for us differently. You've always believed no one else exists except self. Blessings and welcome, Elizabeth. Absolutely. Absolutely. We are one. We are one. We are one. You know, there's these spiritual sayings, you know, we are one soul, you know, expressing itself in infinite different fractals and ways. We are really one spiral. We are one whole, spiraling off into many different fractals of experience in this plane. So speaking about collective agreements and speaking about these parallel dimensions and the earth and the way, I'm going to try to do this without glasses, and the way that the dimensions are coming apart and we have an opportunity to choose which earth we are going to exist on. Are you going to remain in the collective agreement that says yes to war, yes to poverty, yes to violence, yes to strife, yes to struggle, yes to suffering? Or are you going to choose with every thought, word, action, and deed a world, an earth, rather, that is filled with love, filled with light, filled with graceful opportunities to experience even more love and light and harmony and bliss, joy, and creativity, and add whatever you would like. As we deconstruct and release ourselves from those grids of agreement of how we agree about the world works, and especially with time, that is the metaphysician's like infinite tool, eternal tool, is to relinquish the validity of time. And the first time you have that, experience of bending time, you're like, oh my God, it is so cool. It's like you are rushing, say you're rushing to the bank and you're like, digga, 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 oh my God, I've got 5 minutes and there's traffic and there's red lights and oh my God, right? And if you agree very strongly with the collective that you're not going to make it, chances are you won't make it. Now, the universe might surprise you from time to time and you might make it. Though the collective agreement is the bank closes at 5 o'clock and unless you're there by a certain time, you're not getting in. Now, I remember having a friend who was getting a plane to, I don't know, he was going to Europe from LA. He was staying with us and we had to drop him to the airport. And the airport, I lived in Pasadena at the time, and the airport from Pasadena, it's a drive. Anywhere in LA, it's a drive. You never know about traffic. He was on the phone with the airline. He had 20 minutes to get there until the plane started boarding. He was so calm. He was so outside of that linear thinking about time. He was on the phone with the lady. He had to ask her some question about baggage and if he needed to pay more for, to have an extra bag. And he was so calm. And it's almost as if he on purpose took more time to pause in between his questions and to really listen to her. And he wasn't rushing. And the rest of us were like, oh my God, okay, the car started. We put your bags in the trunk. Come on. We gotta go. And he was just like this total calm monk of a sort, just being. We get in the car and, we're all frazzled trying to get him there on time. And he's just so divinely, succinctly at peace and at one. And of course, we got him there. He got on the plane fine. He got on plane on time. He was not plugged into the collective agreement of, I only have 20 minutes. That means I have to start stressing out and live my life in such a fashion as to agree with the possibility that I might not get this plane. That was not in his sphere for one moment. He knew. He didn't even have to say it. He knew completely that he would get on his plane on time, perfectly. Whatever was going to happen was going to happen. It didn't even matter. And he didn't even say, I know I will get my plane. It's like it wasn't even a thing. He was just being in the moment. He collapsed time by his ability to unplug, to not be plugged in with the collective agreement of there's only so much time, which is based on the past of a collective agreement that time is real and that we have to rush. He collapsed time. He created a spontaneous reality for himself by which he got on his plane in perfect ease and grace, mind you, not even rushing, not even running. When he got out of that car at the airport, I was like thinking, he's going to run, and he's just do, 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 do. And I was like, man, so very cool. Yes, you will arrive at the perfect time. I arrive at the perfect time. That's right, sister. That's right. Always, always, eternally. So, that's why our healing, in creating spontaneous realities, our healing is such an important part of relinquishing the past, how we see the past, how we think about the past. Because as we release those chains that bind us to those past circumstances, and as we learn to heal ourselves, it has become so much easier to heal our relationships with others. And when those relationships with others are healed, all the stuff, all the timelines, all the agreements about pain, about hurt, about trauma, about all those ways that your aura, that your linear timeline of being, I was born here, this happened to me here, this marked my energy here, I will never forget this here, this happened to me there, I'm a victim because of that, I was an addict here, all these things, all that stuff begins to fall away, and we become at one with the oneness that is, that it always and is eternal. We become one with that, and less of who we think we are based on time. And in that way, spontaneous realities come to be. Now, I have some offerings for you here. So yes, as we move away from our wounds, as we move away from those past timelines of memory, because really it's our memory that keeps us bound, right, in time, and to that collective agreement and agreements of whatever it is, which we're going to go into here shortly. But remember that our wounds are set points for tar body to dwell. And there is a human experience of, I watch a gentleman, Jeffrey Hoppe, who channels Saint Germain as Adamus, an aspect of Saint Germain or Saint Germain as Adamus. And he was speaking about wounds. And so I was taking some notes. And what I got from what he was saying is absolutely, when we hold and harbor our wounds of the past, those are set points for more of that to happen, for more of that to perpetuate itself. As humans, to be heard, to be seen, to heal these wounds is so important, to be listened to have a voice so we can hear ourselves, but ultimately so that we can complete and move on. Yet, if we keep going on and on and on and on, for example, in therapy, which is good, a lot of people are served by therapy. A lot of people are served by AA. There's a lot of aspects in these processes that people get a lot out of. Yet, if there is not a shift in those paradigms, if there is not a way out to another realm, if there is not an ending and a new beginning, then we're in AA for our whole lives, standing up saying, I am an alcoholic, when in fact you haven't had a drink in 23 years. Right? And I am in no way putting down those processes, those meetings. I know they serve a lot of people in a lot of beautiful ways. I am just saying that there is an expanded way to see things. What are we plugging into? What are we agreeing to? What are we just allowing to be the reality? When in fact, if you can stand up and say, I am, and I know sometimes they say, I am a recovering alcoholic, which is a shift, right? That's like, oh, okay, you're not so bound to those old grids, to those old chains of who you think you used to be. At least now you're a recovering alcoholic. But what if you stand up there and you say, I am healing my life right now. I am choosing to be here now. And in this moment, I am sober. In this moment, I am free. Oh, there's the chainsaw. I am free to embody my truth that is liberated, that is at one with the mind of God, Source, Yahweh. Spontaneous healing is what happens. Spontaneous realities are given the correct conditions to raise, to rise, to be present. So collective agreements are based on how things work, which are all based on the past. 1 + 1 = 2. It's the binary system. Yes is yes, wrong is wrong, left is left, right is right, 1 + 1. You know, it's yes is where there's a very limited scope. When we get out of the binary system, when we begin to heal our lives and move outside of those things that have kept us bound to the gravity of the grids, the gravity of this world, the world begins to change. And you know it. I mean, do you know it? Have you had that experience? Okay, so collective agreements. I wanted to read you. There's a Zen story. There is a Taoist story of an old farmer who had worked his crops for many years. One day his horse ran away. Upon hearing the news, his neighbors came to visit. "Oh, such bad luck," they said sympathetically. "Maybe," the farmer replied. The next morning, the horse returned, bringing with it 3 other wild horses. "How wonderful," the neighbors exclaimed. "Maybe," replied the old man. The following day, his son tried to ride one of the untamed horses. His son was thrown and broke a leg. The neighbors again came to offer their sympathy on this misfortune. "Maybe," answered the farmer. The day after, military officials came to the village to draft young men into the army. Seeing that the son's leg was broken, they passed him by. The neighbors congratulated the farmer on how well things had turned out. "Maybe," said the farmer. So again, this story illustrates that those wise ones, the masters, have relinquished thinking they know anything at all. They've relinquished the past, and this allows and gives rise for the oneness to create synchronicity and divine happenstance, spontaneous realities that are always in service of the highest good of all, because we have no direct need or want or desire for things to happen in the way that we think we need them to happen in order for us to feel safe, in order for us to feel happy, based on past circumstances. It's huge, it's massive, it's a revelation. But the more and the more we allow ourselves to understand the way this works, to sit with it, we become illumined in the light of that oneness. So there's one more small story. 2 traveling monks reached a river where they met a young woman. Wary of the current, the woman asked if they could carry her across. One of the monks hesitated, but the other quickly picked her up onto his shoulders, transported her across the water, and put her down on the other bank. She thanked him and departed. As the monks continued on their way, the one was brooding and preoccupied. Unable to hold his silence, he spoke out. "Brother, our spiritual training teaches us to avoid any contact with women, but you picked that one up on your shoulders and carried her." "Brother," the second monk replied, "I set her down on the other side while you are still carrying her." Pretty cool stuff, right? The past. The past is not just what has happened to us or the collective a millennia ago, 10 years ago, 2 years ago. It is 5 minutes ago. It is what has happened in your experience 5 minutes ago. Are you going to continue carrying it, especially those things that are polarized, that keep us bound? Because that's when we do that, we are agreeing with the collective, like 1 + 1 = 2. That's right. That happened to me, so I should be pissed off. I should be pissed off, and so I'm going to be pissed off all day long. That person cut me off in traffic. Beep, beep. Well, you know what? Now they've just ruined my day, and I'm just going to be like this for all day. And I'm going to take it out on you. I'm going to judge you, and it's just going to taint everything as I move through my day. Now, that is like that other monk carrying that woman, that idea that the woman was on his brother's shoulders. When the other monk he'd done the deed, he let it go, and he wasn't carrying it with him. So what are we carrying that keeps us bound to the collective? What are we carrying that is creating a block for spontaneous realities of love, of light, of bliss, of our bliss state, our inherent state to be because it already is. And what we're doing is we are learning through these applied metaphysics, which is really just learning how the invisible realm of your mind in tandem with the collective mind works. Because remember, the grid, at one time in my life, I thought it was God. I thought it was God. And then I realized, oh, this is just one of many ways to get to God. This is not the God. But we learn how to use it. We learn how to understand the invisible realm of how we are connecting. And so interpenetrating with other energies, entities, beliefs, concepts, agreements. So my teacher used to say, you know, I used to live in New York for 7 years, and those subways are crazy. A lot of them run miles underground, and there's massive buildings all over if you've been in Manhattan. And you're in a little tube, right? Miles underground, going at light speed, basically. And she would say, it's only because we have a collective agreement that this would work, that it works. If enough people begin to think in a different way about something, it shifts. It shifts the collective agreement. The flat earth, the round earth. This is what I mean when I was speaking earlier about the collective agreement, all that stack of paper being stuck and glued together. And now we're beginning to have many different ways of seeing things. We're moving into trinary. There's AI, which we'll talk about at a later time. AI is coming into a level. That's a new level of consciousness. Yeah. And so that stack of papers that was once bound together as one solid collective agreement, 1 + 1 = 2, gravity is real. You can only run so fast in a physical body, whatever all these agreements are. You need the flu shot, you know, whatever these things are. You like my little voice there with that authority. But that's beginning to peel apart. The dimensions are coming apart as we begin to collectively think about things in a new way, see things in a new way. And so, yes, trinary would say everything is possible. Everything is the truth. Everything in the collective is what it is based on our belief, on our putting our attention and awareness there. As the collective believed that the world was flat, there was a collective agreement about that. And then it shifted. The world is round. Oh man, what did that have to take for so many people's minds, so many people's levels of awareness, of perception to shift and to change, to begin to see things in a new light, to allow spontaneous realities to begin to occur that did not reflect that the world was flat. And all of a sudden, they began seeing the world as round. Well, now we have a paradigm where we're split. Some people see the world as round. Some people see the world as flat. And I remember when I left Facebook, I sent out little messages. I'm not on Facebook anymore. I used to be, but I left little messages to those near and dear to me saying, hey, peace out. I'm on Instagram. That's where I'll be, and YouTube. See you later. And one of my friends wrote me and he said, hey, before you go, really quick, what do you get about this whole flat earth thing? And I had meditated on it. And because to me, I don't really care. It's not that I don't care, but I don't have any mind about it. It doesn't fascinate me. It doesn't preoccupy my thoughts. It really doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter. So when I sat with it and I asked universe, what about this whole thing? All I got is trinary. I got trinary, that like, yes, this is the other. This is both at the same time. This is those peeling away of those layers coming apart where multiple universes, multiple dimensions, multiple realities exist at once. So what are we choosing? And how are we using through our consciousness, through understanding the way of collective agreements? How are we choosing to plug in so that we either connect with source and bridge heaven on earth and allow for spontaneous realities to manifest? Now, spontaneous realities can come in joy and love and light, and they can come through fear and through shadow. But what we're talking about right now is allowing ourselves to go beyond the past, to relinquish those ways that we've seen the past through fear, through shadow, through darkness, through pain, through the memory of all that, so that we can be as one in a new collective agreement. So what are the collective agreements we have? And please, if you think of any, drop a line in the comment box. I'd be so grateful. So we agree about time collectively. We have an agreement about time. We have an agreement about driving cars, right? And to such a degree that we can all drive. And for the most part, accidents happen, things happen, yet for the most part, there's an agreement. In this part of the world, we drive this way on this side of the world and that way on that side of the world. And in another part of the pond, we drive in the opposite direction. And for the most part, it works. There's a red light, we stop. There's a green light, we go. There's collective agreements. We agree collectively about gravity. We agree about planets. We agree about wearing seat belts. There's things that we collectively agree upon, and things that serve us and things that perhaps limit us. And one thing that really fascinates me is this Big Bang theory. Tesla had written a paper that had basically spoken to the facts, where he broke down the ways that human beings can time travel, can teleport, and levitate. And not too long after he wrote that paper, what is his name? Georges Marcion, I'm perhaps saying that incorrectly, got together with Einstein and created this Big Bang theory, which through the proliferation of this Big Bang theory creates a collective agreement which blocked Tesla's findings on levitation, time travel, and teleportation. So what I'm saying is that our collective agreement on the Big Bang theory is so huge. If you think about the grid and all the people that are like, yes, that's real, that exists. If you think about that, all of our collective agreements, conscious, unconscious, subconscious, about the Big Bang theory being a thing, is actually blocking us, blocking those abilities that Tesla had discovered, to our ability to levitate, to time travel, to teleport ourselves. And again, we come back to those yogis, to the gurus, to the monks, to those light beings that would say, no thinking, stop thinking, no thinking, just being. And those are the beings that levitate. Those are the beings that have no resistance, that hold no judgment one way or another about the way things need to show up. You know, my teacher is said to have, I wrote a book, just in case you're new and you're joining us. I wrote a book. I've written a couple books. That was my first real book. It's called The Reiki Apprentice. It's available on Kindle, soon on iBooks. There's a link down in the description box. And it embodies basically my whole healing of my life, and how I learned Reiki, and how I learned applied metaphysics as multidimensional healing, and have healed my life with these practices while I apprenticed with my teacher, who is not only a grand Reiki master. A part of her story is that she apprenticed with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and over several years had time in India with him, and would be in Tibet with other monks of his discipleship. And she said that there were times in Tibet where she would be in the temple with the monks, and they would look at something, hold out their hand, and the item would float itself into their hand. And she just said that that was normal. That was the natural way that things happened there, because there was no collective agreement that that couldn't happen. Do you understand? The agreements about gravity, the agreements about time and space, and even physics, and I love all that stuff, and I love sciences, but science really is only there, maybe, what if science is only there to help us go beyond science, right? In that realm that she was in those temples in Tibet, those monks were not plugging into what couldn't happen, right? How limited the realities could be. And not that they were sitting there going like, my realities are totally unlimited. They just didn't have a fixed, assigned, perceptual lens posted about something in those realms one way or another. And so that freed up the ability for them to float things around the room. And what is that from the movie The Matrix, where Neo goes in and he goes to see the Oracle, and he's sitting with the child who's bending the spoon. And the child says, you know, the spoon doesn't exist. So we've been taught collectively to look at things in a certain way. Yet as we meditate, as we heal our lives, as we relinquish time and space as we've known them, which is scary at first. It's scary being the fool. If you saw, I'll put a link here of this week's tarot reading. It's hilarious because we're totally going into fool territory. And that part of our minds that wants to control everything is like, you're a fool. Are you joking me? You have to believe in the right and the wrong. You have to believe like this. You're crazy jumping off the cliff. And the fool is just like, yeah, I might be crazy. I don't know. I don't know. But my faith is rooted in love and in light. So if there's anything I do know, that is what I know. And from there, I trust. Okay. Let's see. I was asking, do you know of any other collective agreements? Public school is good. Paying taxes. Oh, now isn't that a big one, Elizabeth? So, so much. Birthing in hospitals. Girl, exactly. There is such a collective agreement on that, right? The idea of doctors for healing. Yes, absolutely. And you know, if you have just jumped on, please do drop me a little comment in the comment box. I am so grateful. It would be so lovely to hear from you and know you're here. And I know, okay, so we're almost at 11:15. I do my best not to go too long into these readings, but I allow them to be organic at the same time. I did want to do something with the crystal bowl. I have a new thing. I know last time I did it, we couldn't hear it so well, but we're going to see if we can hear it this time. So individual agreements. Isn't this interesting too, the way individual agreements work? So yes, absolutely aligned with what you're offering here, Elizabeth. Not only is it a collective agreement that we should have babies in hospitals, but maybe that's what you really believe yourself. Spontaneous realities and how they are created for yourself is when you release the past and how you think things need to show up, or how you expect things to show up. When we drop that, that is when divine synchronicity shows up. So I know for me, for years, I was a singer. And I sang in bars, I sang in nightclubs, I sang in coffee houses, I sang on big stages with bands. I sang in all sorts of different ways. And I would never drink. The only drink, and this was, most of my time was in Ireland when I sang, and I would only drink a pint of Guinness before I would sing. I would not drink anything else because it would take my voice away. But I found if I had a little Guinness, a glass or a pint, if I really wanted to have a little drink before I'd go on stage, that would be fine for my body system. Now, equally as such, I knew friends who would smoke back in the day in Ireland when you could still smoke in the pubs and the wine bars. He would smoke and drink wine and play and play and play. And I remember hanging out with him one night and going like, oh my God, how can you smoke and drink so much wine and sing all night long? My voice would be thrashed. Like I just couldn't do that if I knew I wanted to sing. And he was like, are you joking me? Every glass of wine I have, my voice gets better. And I was like, whoa, mind blown. Like that was he held an energetic olive branch out to me. And that was a new way that I could begin to think for myself about drinking and singing. And not that I needed to drink and sing, yet it was such a fear-based, limited reality for me that I had such my own individual agreement on that I was very mindful, right, with it. Cut to a spontaneous reality that happened last year. I was at a Mexican-Irish family gathering. whole bunch of us there. Ooh, I was drinking that wine, feeling fine. I love wine. And I was drinking and drinking. Now, I must have had 7 glasses. There was a friend there, a couple friends there, a guy on a fiddle, a guy with a guitar, and I know these lads. And don't you know it, that Mike, the guy on the guitar, started playing Pink Floyd's Great Gig in the Sky. And that's that one where, what's her name? Ooh, what's her name? The original one on Dark Side of the Moon. It's that beautiful song where the lady starts to sing and just belt it. And he was saying, come on, Tuesday, come on, Tuesday. And I was like, are you fucking joking me? I've had like 7 glasses of wine. There's no way. Like, that was my initial thought. And then as soon as I started having that thought, I dropped it. And I realized that that's all based on my past. That's all based on my individual agreement with some collective agreement in the grids that says, yeah, 1 + 1 = 2. That ain't happening, girl. I dropped that. And it was a state of grace. I said, you know what? God, source, love, I am your vessel. Use me. Use me. Use me. And do you know that something magnificent happened? A spontaneous reality occurred for me whereby, and I may have not gotten every note, note for note, but something channeled through me. And it took me into this whole new level where I couldn't, in a way, I couldn't believe what was happening, because I was singing this song that I'd always wanted to sing. Yet I always sort of had this agreement, this thought in myself that I couldn't because it was too hard and her vocal is just too far out. Yet that night, spontaneous reality happened and I sang what I could never sing before. So how can spontaneous reality show up for you? The moment you drop who you think you are, what you've agreed upon from the past, and what the possibilities are for the moment, for the now. You know, our body responds to what we think. Our body responds to what we think. If we think we're going to get sick, what are the chances of that happening? It's not that you think I will not get sick, I won't get sick, but if you don't have a mind about it, if you don't think about it, what are the chances of you getting sick? It's interesting, in a bubble of light, there's been a couple of people over this past winter that have said, oh God, everyone is sick. Everyone I know is sick. And my friends, my family, my this, my that. And I just stand there and okay. You know, I'm just listening. I'm not going, oh yeah, doesn't it suck? And I'm not saying like, oh, well, you need to take your echinacea. You know, I'm nothing. I'm just like, okay, interesting. Yeah, fine. Great. Wonderful. I'm not plugging in. So we have the idea and I'm not sick. Haven't been. I don't know what that means. Again, okay, so one more thing. And thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. One more thing. This speaks to those agreements that we have with ourselves, right? Our Course in Miracles teacher, Constance, said to one of the students, this was last winter, and there was a couple people in the group that were sick. And one of the guys was sniffling and blowing his nose and all that. And he was saying, yeah, I think it's because, you know, it's Christmas time. The weather has changed. He had all these reasons why he was sick. The weather changed. I've been eating too many sweets. You know, it's that time of the year where there's just treats out everywhere. And the teacher was just sitting there, like not agreeing with him at all, not disagreeing, but just having no mind about it, just watching him say his piece. And he was like, you know what I mean? At the end of his statement. And she said, no, I don't. And I thought, this is so cool. And I got it in that moment that metaphysically, she was consciously choosing to have no mind, choosing not to be in agreement with that, not only his individual construct, but that collective agreement of it's winter, so you're going to get the flu, or it's winter, so you're going to get sick. It's if you eat too many sweets, you're going to get sick because sugar does the thing in your body, and da da da. And she was just like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. And that's the premise of A Course in Miracles. That's the premise of spontaneous realities happening. And if he chose in that moment to take on that consideration of, oh, you know what? Yeah, I don't know what's happening either. Perhaps all of those beliefs that I feel rooted in have no roots. I can unplug myself from the roots in those things. And instantly, his energy vehicle, his body mind would be shifted into a different paradigm, into a different dimension where perfect health exists. So dementia, and really I wrote this in my notes at the beginning and I'm only getting it to it now. For years I worked in nursing homes, in hospices and hospitals, and I have the honor of working specifically with a lot of elders and individuals going through Parkinson's, going through dementia, going through Alzheimer's, which are just different fractals of the same thing. Memory loss, right? Differentiation in one's ability to access a collective agreement of what's happening here now. Oh, I see there's a lot of signs here. Okay, thanks for all the fire, sister. So one thing that occurred to me in my years of grid studies, and this is something that I'd love to write about in time, because it's pretty big. But if we consider the grid, I'm going to pull my little picture up here again, and then we're going to get into our meditation. But if you consider this collective agreement of the grid, this is all based on our beliefs, on our thoughts, on our actions, our words, our deeds. And it's the foundation of this is the past of everything that's been, is creating what is here now. And like A Course in Miracles was saying, is that, you know, we're only seeing what we think we know of the past. And the moment we allow that to soften and release doing things, thinking about things from the past, that's when we enter the now moment, where oneness resides, where divine spontaneity, where spontaneous realities occur. So there is a fashion, I know I'm all over the place here, but there is a fashion of us learning the grid, learning how to use applied metaphysics, use our consciousness consciously to direct time and space through our thought, action, word, and deed to create the correct conditions that we wish to have in our lives, the healing, the blessings, the new apartment, the abundance, the whatever it is, right? The new circumstances. Yet, when we go beyond that level, we learn that it's no longer about manipulating, directing, trying to work a will of sorts to get what we want, what we think we want, but rather it's us getting out of the way and allowing that divine order, that divine oneness to move through us. So in effect, we stop moving time and space. It's a great tool, and I think there's levels of mastery that we can all utilize and understand it, yet there is a level of surpassing it, where then we get to a point of relinquishing the need to direct that energy, and where we simply allow time and space to move through us. We've created the correct conditions, mind, body, so that as time space moves through us, it cannot but help to create the most divine circumstances for us in our 3D reality, whether we see ourselves in the world or in a different world that is rooted in heaven on earth, realization, Gaia. Now, dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. The epiphanation that I received about this in closing here today. What if all of these people, and remember, there's almost 8 billion of us, and how many millions or billions of those people have this diagnosis? Now I would like to research that, or if you know, let me know. All plugged in to the grid, creating the grid. And wouldn't you know it, these folks are of a certain age. There's a certain timeline. Although I have known people in their 30s who have gotten dementia, but that's a lesser scale. What if all of these people that are experiencing memory loss, that are spatially existing in a different version of time-space than we have here now, that we're agreeing with collectively, that we experience as the world to a fashion, or the earth, if we feel that we are on the earth, 4D, what if they are forgetting, in their forgetting, in their releasing of the memory of war? A lot of these elders that are forgetting, that are releasing their memory, are from the wartime. What if their releasing and forgetting is actually a great service to us, is actually collapsing timelines, collapsing grids, that the higher order, and really is it higher? It's just an order of love and light be and resume itself. I feel there is a connection, especially from working for so many years very closely, like close, physically close, intimately close with these individuals, tapping into, working with them, with Reiki, with yoga, with many levels of healing, running grids, sharing metaphysics with some of them even. But what if their forgetting is actually serving the greater whole in root of aligning with heaven on earth reality, in root of going beyond the memory of pain, of fear, of war, of wounds, of violence? Isn't that something to consider? What if? Isn't that amazing? So, I do want to thank you for watching. I do want to thank you for subscribing. There is a red button. Please hit it if you are new to this channel and you're watching this. Please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you're watching right now. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. It makes such a difference to how my videos are made available to the greater whole on the YouTube community. Leave comments in the comment box below. And if you're not a subscriber to my website, to my monthly newsletter, all of my links are in the description box below. TuesdayMayThomas.com is my website, and right there, the landing page, you will see what to do to receive your free copy of my book, The Higher Self, Blueprint of Mastery, but also to receive my newsletter every month. This is my new book. I am so proud of it. It is called How to Manifest with the Law of Vibration, Why the Law of Attraction Will Only Take You So Far, and How to Surpass It. I'm putting the finishing touches on it, and I look forward to releasing it very, very soon. So stay tuned. I'm going to see, I have to do my homework today and tomorrow as I come into getting ready to launch it. I would love to make it available like for free or for a very, very discount price for the first couple days. And I will need your support in trying to get it up in the ranks in Amazon. So do stay tuned. I will be reaching out to you for that. I'm so excited to be sharing on it and speaking on those ideas, on those concepts of manifesting with the law of vibration, which really has so much to do, in a way, with what we've been talking about today. We're going to try the crystal bowl again. And I'm going to play it a little bit, and I would love for you to tell me if you can hear it. And I know there's a buffering in these live streams. So sometimes I think that's why it hasn't come through in the past, is I would be playing, but there's like a skip jump. And so the sound kind of doesn't get captured and it doesn't sink in. This live stream, I've changed the speed. You can do that in the editing of how these messages get translated through the live stream. So let's just try, and we'll see if it picks up. And of course, I don't want to play it too loud because I want you to be able to hear what I'm saying. Can you hear it? Can you hear it this time? What say you? Is it coming through? I'm going to assume that it is. Let's take a nice deep breath in. And a nice deep breath out. And we'll take a moment to connect with Source, connect with God, connect with love, whatever name you give that aspect that is one, that is oneness. Feel yourself connected to it through your heart, through your mind, and feel it connected to you. Now take another slow, deep, full inhale and a deep, full exhale. And relax. Allow your body to relax. In this short meditation, we will practice allowing. We allow ourselves now to be released from worry. We allow ourselves now to be released from the collective agreement of worry. We allow ourselves now to be free of concern. We allow ourselves to be free of that collective agreement of concern. We'll take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. We allow ourselves to be free of the past, be it 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 1 year ago, or 1 minute ago. We allow ourselves to be free and to enter the now moment. As we do this, we access now wisdom. For the highest good We call on our higher self, the Holy Spirit, to help release us from paradigms of fear, of limitation, of lack, of scarcity and need. We release, we release, we release those individual and collective agreements that keep us bound to those frames of perception, to those frames of realities. And as we release those agreements, both individual and collectively, we are set free to the eternal now, where we may be blessed in experiencing spontaneous realities filled with wonder, with miracles, and divine happenstance. Take another deep breath in and out. And know that it is done for the highest good of all. It is done for the highest good of all. I'm so very grateful to spend time with you, to share these ideas and concepts. I truly appreciate your presence in my life. I appreciate being seen by you. I give thanks for you. And I give thanks for this platform where we can share, exchange, and hold space. And there's so much more that I look forward to engaging in, ideas, concepts, teachings with you. Thank you for your love and your light. I feel blessed by you. May you feel blessed by me too. And I'm being guided to go out the way we came in with the love and light broom. If you missed the beginning of this live stream, you might want to go back. I speak a bit about the broom and brooms in general with this work that we do. This is the love and light broom. The love and light broom, the love and light broom, the love and light broom, the love and light broom. We're gonna sweep, sweep, sweep. 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 The love and light brew. 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 We're gonna sweep, sweep, sweep. 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 The love and light brew. 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 Love and light, and so it is. Blessings and namaste.